Steel types are one of the most defensive types in all of Pokemon, having 11 resistances and 1 immunity. However, it has 2 very common weaknesses being fire and ground types, and often struggle offensively to do super effective damage. So I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could beat the fan game Pokerogue using only steel types. So the rules for the run are very simple. We can use only steel types that we find in the game, and we must beat all 200 levels, including all gym leaders, boss fights, Elite Four champions, and rival fights. So let us get right into it. Going into our starter selection here, this might be one of the most important decisions of the run, as choosing the right starters will really give us a boost to this run, but choosing the wrong ones can almost doom it from the start. So the very first starter I ended up choosing here is in Generation 5, go down to Generation 5 past me, and it is actually Ferroseed. Because Ferroseed is an insanely good defensive unit that is just a complete wall. With the egg moves I have being Spiky Shield and Strength Stab, it is just a complete wall that can stall turns as long as you don't have fire. It just burns to a crisp if you expose it to any sort of open flame. Even a candle could probably melt this thing in about 3 seconds. So the second starter we actually ended up picking is down here in Generation 6, with that being Honedge. Now, Honedge is a very interesting choice because it has really good both offensive and defensive capabilities, with obviously when it's in its Aegislash form being able to transform both into shield and attack form. Is actually down in Generation 9, with that being a Tinkatink. Now, the thing about Tinkatink is it is a fairy type, and if you've ever played Pokerogue before, you know the value of the fairy type, being able to almost completely counter both the shiny Rayquaza and shiny Mega Rayquaza you face. So, let's get right into it. Going into this first rival fight, we're really going to learn a lot about the team that we're going to be having to face throughout this battle. So up first is a Score Bunny, fire type obviously, which is less than ideal, but at least it doesn't have a secondary type in its final form. There were some runs where I just needed to reset if I got a firefighting type like a Chimchar or a Emboar, stuff like that. But we're just going to kind of quickly wrap through this. The first couple of rival fights are really simple, really straightforward, just for you to start beginning to build your strategy for the rival. And then second out is a Starly, which will obviously become a Staraptor in the later fights. You're always guaranteed to get a flying type with multiple forms, so this is our one, and luckily it will be negated by a Honedge, which is really good. So that is the first rival fight complete. Let's get right into the next battle. Surprisingly, there was actually no gym fight between the first and second rival fights, so we're going to go ahead and get right into the second rival fight here. So starting off with Reboot, we're going to lead with Ferroseed, which may seem like a bit of an interesting idea, but with Spiky Shield and with Strength Sap, we're able to kind of just absorb a lot of damage out of this Reboot and be able to lower its attack and stuff like that. So you just see we're alternating our Spiky Shields, and then here we'll likely just go for another Strength Sap just to keep on surviving, keep trying to fight for as long as possible. Another Spiky Shield to another Ember. Ferroseed is an incredible stalling unit as long as you keep it away from fires. As soon as you get into fire, it gets into trouble, but like you can see there. Also, we did pick up close combat on our Honedge, however that won't be staying around for very long. Getting the levels. Second out is a Staravia. So, we're going to switch into a Tinkatink, which might seem a bit interesting, but we want to try to keep that Honedge in the back pocket just in case we need it for whatever the third Pokemon is. So we're just going to be going for Training Kisses here to try to keep our health high, because we have no idea what this third Pokemon is yet, as it continues to just kind of stall and stall us. And so, as we don't learn Slash, we're going to be able to see what another one of the Pokemon is, which is actually Drampa, which is actually incredible for us because we will have 2 different immunities for both of its stabs being Honedge and Tinkatink. So we're just going to slowly Draining Kiss it, avoiding the Protect there, and that is going to wrap up the second rival fight. Going into this first gym fight here, we're facing off against Crasher Wake, the Sinnoh water type gym leader. So on paper, this should be a pretty fair matchup. However, we have one Mon who you guys saw in the last battle a little bit of, but this battle here truly just shows his real power. And everybody, say it with me now, because you guys are going to hear it a lot. Ferroseed. Going into this run, I actually didn't really know about the true power of Ferroseed. I had never actually really used it before in a true run. But after these sets of runs, like trying to make it through using these steel types, I'm truly just amazed by how good Ferroseed is. Like, I know it's a really good competitive Pokemon, but I'm not a competitive Pokemon player personally. But yeah, I've just been amazed by how good Ferroseed has been in these runs. So as you can kind of see, we're just soaking up so much damage. Anytime we get low, we can just simply Strength Sap, which
heals all of our health back and lowers their attack for however much we're sapping from them. Spiky Shield, like, is basically a protect, but it does the damage back if they hit physically. It also has Iron Barbs, which is just basically that, but you don't need to even protect, really. So yeah, we're kind of wrapping up through the end of this battle. Before we get into the next major battle, we have some upgrading to do. So first up is our Tinkatink evolving into Tinkatuff. Now, this is obviously just a minor step up, but it's just a stepping stone till we get to Tinkaton, which is an incredible unit. Yeah. Next up, we are catching a couple of Pokemon. So you can already see there in the team, we have a Drillbur already caught. And then just now we are catching a Magnemite. Both of those Pokemon will be used. Last up here, we actually were able to catch an Archaludon, even though it definitely didn't want to be caught. Now, Archaludon is an incredible unit. It's very useful, very versatile, and I was insanely happy when I caught it. Couple more evolutions to go through. First one being a Drillbur into Extra Drill, our primary Earthquake user throughout the run. Next up being Honedge into Dubblade, another just straightforward, and also Magnemite into Magneton. So yeah, so now we're getting Tinkaton, incredible unit as well. Pharaoh Seed into Ferrothorn. Really, we just got an insane amount of evolutions before this next major battle. As you can see, this next rival fight's actually incredibly fast, and that is for one reason and one reason alone. And that is simply that Archaludon is far too powerful for this point in the game. Being a 2-stage evolution Dragon type with a dual typing is just incredible. He used Breaking Swipe to start and then learned Dragon Claw and just simply swept through all of Ivy's Pokemon without even really breaking a sweat. Here we can see we got a Dust Stone, so that's going to give us our final evolution for the run, being our Doublade into Aegislash. Straight over that evolution, we were right into the gym fight against Jasmine, the Steel-type gym leader from Johto. So Archaludon is still very powerful for this point of the game, being able to just simply clear through the first couple of Pokemon that Jasmine has, being Klefki, Magnezone. We get a little bit of chip damage off on, but then we're going to go into our Excadrill here, who does not yet have Earthquake, but does have Gel Run, which is still very effective against these Steel typings. However, Bronzong does have Levitate, which I did not catch there. Go for a very weak Metal Claw, and then switch into Tinkaton. Going for a Pyro Ball, which will obviously also be super effective against all of the Steel typings. We just have a lot of coverage for Steel. We have Fire moves on Aegislash and Tinkaton. And then you will see here for the Bronzong, when the Bronzong comes back in, do that, silly me, get taken out by it, but we still have Aegislash in the back with Shadow Claw, super effective, and Stab, and that's going to wrap up the gym fight. So we go actually right back into another rival fight, fighting off against Gardenia, the Sinnoh Grass-type gym leader. I'm not sure what it is about us getting all the Sinnoh gym leaders. Again, this is kind of another neutral matchup. Neither side has a super effective primary typing against each other. So planning for the grass move there, I had decided to switch into Ferrothorn. So Ferrothorn was able to stall for at least a little bit till I developed a plan. So the next few turns, I tried to plan around the secondary typings using like Excadrill, ground type for Roserade, Bronzong's Levitate for Torterra, as you can kind of see there. Once I get it to sleep though, Aegislash is really the MVP here. Because now that I'm not afraid of the Earthquake right away, I'm able to just simply wipe out the Torterra there with the Bitter Blade. Take out the Tangela. I mean, it's a Tangela. Do I really need to say more? I don't think it could really harm me if it tried. As I sit out the faintest screen for a second. Breloom, also not going to do anything with its secondary typing being immune to mine. Chestnut, again, not going to do very much. Finally, we have the Roserade. So we're going to try to protect for a little bit, because this thing is a menace. With Fiery Dance, being able to hit our Steel types hard. But we were able to take it down using Aegislash. Going into this next rival fight here, Ivy's obviously going to start off with Cinderace just like she will for all of these rival fights. However, we have an Excadrill ready to hit her with a Magnitude 9 Earthquake, which will just immediately eradicate the bunny. Next out is going to be the Staraptor after we get these levels real quick. So Staraptor, obviously we have Aegislash, but we also have Rock Slide on Excadrill, which will hit it super effectively. So it's going to leave it down in the red after one Rock Slide, and then we're going to go into Aegislash, presuming a close combat there, which we guessed right. And so now Staraptor basically has no options to go into Aegislash. I don't think it even has a move to hit it right now. So we're able to take it out with the Iron Head. And then from here, for most of the rest of the battle, it's just a pretty good strategy to be able to alternate between King's Shield and attacking moves based on whatever would be best for this situation. So we're going to go for the King's Shield here, protect ourselves from the Dragon Pulse, and then go for the Iron Head. Yep. Take the Iron Head down into the red, get a flinch, so in the end it won't actually really matter, and we get a free Iron Head into the Electivire. One more will take it out. So that is now 3 down, 2 to go. Next up is a Tyranitar. Unfortunately for him, he is weak to Steel typing, so one Iron Head is just going to do the trick. And last out is that Drampa on red, so that's going to wrap up the rival fight. So I haven't actually mentioned it yet, but we've been fighting a lot of rocket grunts throughout this journey through Pokerogue. So that obviously means that the boss we're going to have to fight from the enemy team being Giovanni. Now, Giovanni's a very interesting Pokemon trainer for us, being primarily using poison and ground types. Obviously, the poison types we completely wall having the immunity to, but the ground types might be our single biggest weakness in this game. Our ace in the hole for this fight is actually surprisingly Bronzong, as you can kind of see here. Having levitated and being able to negate the earthquakes that Giovanni loves to throw out there is incredibly valuable. So as you can see here, we're going to put the Doug Trio to sleep, and then once we switch into our ace in the hole, this battle is basically wrapped up. I mean, you can kind of see here he can do whatever he would please to try to damage me, but with the combination of Spiky Shield and Strength Sap, there's really not much you can do if you don't have a fire move, which I don't believe any of his Pokemon had. Even this Nidoking here, Nidoking is incredible in this game. It just gets completely walled by Ferrothorn. Just completely wiped out. Obviously, Rhyperior has the 4 times weakness to grass, and then the Doug Trio that's asleep and on 1 health is going to get wrapped up. I'm not going to lie to you guys, this gym fight against Skyla might be my least favorite battle of Pokerogue I've ever had. It was just a complete slugfest from start to finish, with her taking out one of my Pokemon, then me taking out one of her Pokemon. I'm not sure what it is about flying types, as you'll kind of see later on in the video. There's another flying type battle that I just had very little fun in. Like, there was never really a scare of me losing this run on this battle, but I just had next to no fun playing it. If I had to choose an MVP for this battle, however, I'd probably choose either Aegislash with his protecting moves or Excadrill with Rock Slide. So you can kind of see here, he's just alternating his moves, shielding once, hitting once, shield, hit back. Just a very not fun battle overall. And we're going to wrap up this battle using our Tinkaton, most likely, using Gigaton Hammer and Play Rough, just to try to do as much damage as humanly possible. Oh, nope, it's going to be our Chaladon. From here, we're going to go right into the penultimate rival fight, which was where I truly believe the game really starts to get difficult. As you can see, each one of her Pokemon typically has multiple health bars, like her Cinderace here having 2 health bars. As you can see, Bronzong, with his just complete lack of offense, is just a sacrificial lamb a lot of the time in these battles. But as soon as he gets into the Staraptor, we're obviously going to switch into Aegislash, like we've done many times so far. And then once you get into Drampa, we're going to go do a quick shield, take the Dragon Pulse. Then once we see Dragon Pulse, we know Tinkaton is the correct option here. Once I select it, if I do select it, there we go. Dragon Pulse obviously negated, and we're assuming that the switching roundabout is probably going to start here, where she switches, I switch, she switch, I switch. Yep, so you're going to go into Metagross. My counter move is going to be Aegislash with the Ghost typing. And then your counter move is going to be Drampa, which obviously is going to get it killed because we have a stab that's not resisted. Going into Electivire now, so we're obviously just going to go into Excadrill. That's a very, very simple switch there. But then comes the Behemoth. This is what we've built this whole team around. We have this tiny little pixie ready to smite down this huge serpent. Immediately upon seeing the pixie, the serpent ran and tried to throw everything else in the team to the front to avoid having to face that tiny pixie. For example, here, this Cinderace, just everything else in her team rushed to the front to try to protect the demon. However, nothing could stop it. She was finally able to get her second kill of the fight, but we now have our Chaladon, who is going to do a lot of good work here. Going back into Aegislash for the Metagross. Again, going for the Shadow Claw, and that will finally take out the first of Cinderace's 2 health bars. We know you're going to be going for Pyro Ball, so we're going to switch into... Or we're not going to switch, actually. I'm not sure why I didn't switch there, but we're just going to go for Shadow Claw to get it down into the red. And now with one more switch, and we're just going to let Nope, Aegislash lives and takes out the Cinderace, so that is now another Mon down. As I sit here on the select screen, not sure why I'm doing that. Getting those levels, getting those levels. Got 3 left. First out is a Staraptor with a Sliver, so obviously it's not going to do anything to Aegislash. Oh, it actually takes it out, but we got the kill because of the knockback damage. Going into our Chaladon to just kind of scope out what you're going for. Going into Metagross, obviously, so we're just going to go for an Electroshock to do neutral damage, and one of those is just easily going to wipe it out. And so there it is. Back comes out the Serpent. And it's going to be able to wipe out our Chaladon in a single blast. But back comes out the Pixie. This thing shakes in fear at the thought of the Pixie. And as we smite it down with our Play Rough, the Serpent vows to return stronger than ever. Whatever that was about probably wasn't too relevant, right? I don't think so, personally. So we're just going to catch a quick Empoleon here for the Water-type stab, because that is super duper valuable to us. Just being able to hit ground types super effectively and giving us a better option into fire types. Both of those being 2 of our biggest weaknesses, obviously. So being able to get something that can hit both super effectively is incredibly valuable. The next gym leader we had in our path was Marlin, the water gym leader from Unova. Now, water type is a very interesting type because it should theoretically be a pretty good wall into our team. However, we have exactly 2 super effective moves against water type. The first one being Electroshot with our Chaladon that you guys are seeing right here, and the other being Vine Whip with Ferrothorn. And funny enough, those were the only 2 moves or slash Pokemon used in this entire battle. So we start off using our Chaladon using as many Electroshots as possible to build up our attack and to hit as hard as possible. As you can see here, we're doing pretty well. Just got burned there by the Starmie, which is less than ideal, but we're just going to keep fighting through it, taking down the Starmie there. So that is now 3 down, 3 to go into Caracosta. So now with the Caracosta, about to fall to the Electroshot. That's going to leave 4 down, 2 to go, presumably. Yep, he falls there. So now we have 2 left. Wailord, and Wailord will most likely kill here, I'm assuming. Yep. So now we're going to go into our Ferrothorn. Switch into the Ferrothorn here. And now we can just simply Strength Sap, and Power Whip. And yeah, this was a pretty straightforward gym fight. Typically it wouldn't be, but we just have really good type coverage across all our Pokemon. So you're going to go for a Water Spout, and we're going to go for one more Power Whip, and that's going to wrap up the gym leader. Another gym badge down. Going into the final battle against Giovanni, I was really concerned about how well we would stack up against his team. He's guaranteed to have a Mewtwo and has a plethora of ground types, and I really was unsure of what strategies we would have outside of just Ferrothorn and Prey. But, as I like to say, Ferrothorn. Giovanni is truly trying to do everything he can to destroy this Ferrothorn, but between its ability to shield, sap your strength, lower your attack, and even do some damage, it is just near impossible to kill. Even this Mega Kangaskhan that is able to attack twice per turn just was not able to do enough damage. And once you lock yourself into Outrage, you're going to put yourself into a bad time. So he has to switch into Gastrodon, and this allows us to get the showdown we want, being Ferrothorn versus Mewtwo. Now, Mewtwo, if he was able to get through Ferrothorn, would probably sweep my entire team. This Mewtwo is an absolute menace that is just completely unstoppable. But between the combo of Ferrothorn and Aegislash, we're just able to completely wall it from doing any meaningful damage. We're able to use Aegislash to get another couple kills. Once we see Hippowdon, we switch to Empoleon, which gets immediately annihilated, which is not great. But Ferrothorn is able to just barely hang on from the attack, drain all of Hippowdon's attack, and then just start chipping again. It's what he does best. Chip, 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 chip. Even an Earthquake from a Hippowdon, which you would expect to do a lot of damage, just is not able to do a big enough dent with all the minus attacks that Ferrothorn has inflicted upon it. We continue to just try our best to chip down this Hippowdon, which is really just not taking very much damage. We look at our options, decide that none of them are really worth it, and we just kind of need to try to hit through these iron defenses, even though it's not very fun. And finally he switches into Mewtwo, and we just knocked out the first of the 2 health bars, and we're trying our best to shield and shield. Switching into Aegislash as he goes back into Mega Kangaskhan, which is an amazing move to switch into with a Shadow Claw. Shield the Flamethrower, and go back into Ferrothorn, because we know you can't quite take me out. Oh, never mind, he just did it on the second attack. So now it's time to see our Chaladon try to do some work here against the Mega Kangaskhan, switching into Hippowdon, which gets immediately annihilated. Not a good decision by Giovanni. Excadrill is able to take out the Archaladon, however, which just leaves us with 3 Pokemon left. He dodges the Excadrill mirror matches and just sends his Mewtwo to its death, which is a bizarre decision. But from here, once we have the Mewtwo down, it's really just more of just making sure we don't make any dumb mistakes. Mega Kangaskhan is down in the red, and we still have 2 full health Pokemon remaining. Iron Thorns, although it does seem like an amazing Pokemon, is weak to Steel, which is never a good thing for an opponent going into my Steel-type team. Even though it has the electricity secondary type, it's just not quite able to do enough damage before Aegislash takes it down. And all this remains is the Mega Kangaskhan on 2 health. All we have left is a Tinkaton, but since both of the opponents both only have a sliver, this wraps up the Team Rocket fights. Final gym leader before we reach the Elite Four is Berg, the Bug-type leader in Unova. I honestly feel pretty bad for Berg. Being put as the last gym leader as a Bug-type leader was just not right to him. If he was put somewhere in the middle, there's definitely a chance he could have been a lot more difficult. But because my team was essentially ready for the Elite Four and Champion, he just really didn't stand a chance, to be honest. Aegislash did most of the carrying here, as you can kind of see, using Bitter Blade and Iron Head. Both of those moves are very effective against these Bug types, but to be honest, this was a very uneventful battle that just kind of prepared me for the Elite Four. Speaking of the Elite Four, we have one of the most important things to show in this Elite Four being which region are we going to get the Elite Four from. Seeing Rika, we obviously know that we have the Paldean Elite Four plus champion to fight, which means we start off with the ground type, which should on paper be a very tough matchup for us. However, we have one guy who's typically been able to handle ground types pretty well for us, so just say it with me now. Ferrothorn. Like, it's honestly just incredible. I just got him randomly in one of my runs and didn't really think too much of it, just that he was a steel type. And since then, I've developed an incredible, like, conviction and, like, appreciation for him. And, like, he genuinely is probably one of my favorite mons to use now in Pokerogue. Like, I never thought that he would have this power. I mean, it's incredible, honestly. So, you guys are just going to kind of continue to watch this sweep go on with the Strength Sap, Earthquake, he chuckles at that. And we're just one-shotting everything, and anytime we even get anywhere close to low, we can just lower attack and get ourselves back to full, like right here. It's honestly incredible. It's just one-shotting everything with his Vine Whip. If there is one thing I would change, I would just simply, like, make him have a good Grass-type move with 100 accuracy, because obviously Power Whip only has 85, which has been a little bit of an issue, but we've worked our way around it. So that's the first Elite Four member down. Next up is Poppy in another Steel-type mirror match. And again, I feel like one thing I've really noticed throughout this run is we've been facing a lot of trainers of the same type. So like we faced multiple steel type trainers, faced multiple ground type trainers. I'll give you a hint, there's going to be another flying type trainer, so we'll face multiple of those. It's just kind of odd, honestly. But on paper, again, steel should be a pretty neutral matchup into us. However, we have this Excadrill here you can see that's just spamming Earthquake like every competitive Pokemon player online. But it works, so I mean, I guess you can't really knock it. Even has a Tinkaton, but not as good as my Tinkaton. And I make a bit of a silly mistake here, forgetting that Earthworm always has Earth Eater. So we do have to switch out into Aegislash to go for Bitter Blade, just to sap the rest of his HP from him, even though the Earthquake does do a little bit of damage, but that cleans that up. The only 2 Pokemon that could truly resist it were the Earthworm. There was a Corviknight and a Bronzong. However, neither of those other 2 Pokemon really scare me, and we're just pretty easily cleaned up with our other Pokemon. So yeah, as we knock out this final Bronzong, that's going to put us 2 down, 2 to go on the Elite Four. Third up is Larry and his Lovable Loneliness. Another flying type opponent like I mentioned. And again, just like Skyla, just an absolute slog fest. Again, this one's like twice the speed of all the previous Elite Four battles, so you guys don't have to watch this like complete dumpster fire of a battle. I'm not sure why flying types give us so much of a challenge. If I had to guess, I think it's just that like we don't have a super effective stab into them. They don't have a super effective stab into us, so it's really on flat footing. In previous runs, I kind of have used a Magnezone, because that would obviously be super effective with his electric typing, but his Molasses speed is so killer because everything can go before him and just knock him out if they have a ground type move or something like that. However, after around 5 to 6 in real life minutes here, you can see we wrap up the battle. Just one more Elite Four member to go.
Last up is Hassel, continuing the trend of the final Elite Four member being a Dragon-type specialist. He would certainly make the shiny Rayquaza proud. And by that, I mean that my small pink girl with a big hammer destroys every single thing he has ever owned. He was barely able to escape the Tinkaton sweep, but I believe it was only with one Pokemon left. As you can see, she's just slowly sweeping through everything he has ever owned. Yeah, so we used Tinkaton to get everyone but one, and then our rest of our 5 Pokemon was able to clean up the last one. So overall, the Elite Four was very straightforward, with pretty much just one Pokemon being the answer into each member. And so last up for this set and part of the game is the champion. For the Elite Four for Generation 9, we can either get Gita or Nemona as our champion. And as you can see, we got Nemona, which is a far more favorable matchup for us. Again, this should really be a very hard battle on paper. However, I'm not sure why the game decided to do this, but they gave her multiple Pokemon that just cannot hit Ghost types. Like you can see, her Dunsparce kind of makes sense, it's a normal type. But then also, her Koraidon also cannot hit Ghost types. And that just makes no sense to me, because that's kind of like her box legendary. That's her big Pokemon that's supposed to scare you when you're going into this battle. And I'm not sure why they didn't give her at least one move to be able to hit Ghosts. But yeah, as you guys can see, Aegislash is just making clean work of all these mons. Koraidon just has to go for agility because it can't hit me. And for the entire battle, we actually only used Aegislash and Excadrill, which is honestly insane to me that this is supposed to be like the final challenge of the base part of the game. And we were able to clean it up with 2 Pokemon. So as we kind of clean up these last couple of mons, we only have 2 more major battles to go. So here we are, facing Ivy one last time. I can almost feel the anger from her Rayquaza coming through the screen. Of course, to begin the battle, we need to get into the matchup we've always gotten into, which is right here, switching our Aegislash into Staraptor and just completely bullying that poor thing. So we're able to kind of knock it down, and we just wipe it out, and she goes back to her Fire Rabbit. So we do a quick shield, tries to hit us with an Overheat, and so we switch up into our favorable type matchup. Here, going into our Empoleon. Come on, me. Make the decision. Make the move. Call the bullpen. There we go. Switching in. And here we get an absolute gift. Switching in Electivire and getting immediately eviscerated by a crit Hydro Pump. She then goes into Drampa, so we switch into our tiny pink Menace. And so she tries to make the wise type matchup, but Tinkaton doesn't care about type matchups, and with one last Hydro Pump, Cinderace is down for good. We finally get to see the Serpent in its new form, so then we switch in our Pink Demon to get the matchup everyone wanted. But the Serpent runs like always, slippery and slimy, just trying to get away. So we continue playing this switching game for a little bit, with her trying to sneak that Mega Rayquaza in, but every time we don't let it. We switch in our Pink Girl with a hammer to scare it out, and we're slowly chipping down everything else that she has, even through the berries, through the healing, everything like that. We go into our Ferrothorn here. She goes into Mega Rayquaza, probably expecting a switch, but we choose not to, which may seem surprising to all of you guys, but Ferrothorn has proven to me time and time again that he's just a menace. He's a machine. Even he is able to stall Mega Rayquaza, which is crazy to me that this 2-stage evolution in Generation 5 is able to stall arguably the best Pokemon of all by base stat total, which also is kind of crazy. But yeah, he's just able, because Rayquaza has to go for a fly, he can just Spiky Shield on the turns where he's going to get hit, soak up the damage, and go for Strength Sap whenever it's not. This process continues to repeat itself as the Mega Rayquaza gets lower and lower. And it's looking like we may never even get that matchup that was prophesized in the last rival fight. And in the end, now he's down to around 2 health bars, continuing to just beat himself up over and over again. The berries certainly make it annoying, but we have far more healing than him. Down to 1 final health bar. 1 Spiky Shield, right into it. Now he's down to 1 health bar. 1 more Iron Head seals the trick. So in the end, it wasn't even Tinkaton that ended up killing the Rayquaza. It was our MVP, through and through. The rest of this battle goes much the same as many of the previous ones have gone, with us just trying to play the type matchups. Embarrassingly, both members of this fateful showdown actually ended up falling, with Tinkaton falling to the Drampa, which I thought was pretty funny and pretty ironic. But yeah, that wraps up the final Ivy fight there. So, here we are. One last battle.
separates us and victory. It's kind of crazy that we're here. Was it really the battles that mattered? Or was it the friends we made along the way? Either way, it doesn't really matter too much. We still got to build a strategy here. And my strategy for at least the first phase of Eternatus was to stall it out of Eterna Beam. The move only has 5 power points and can be done using Archaladon and Tinkaton using their respective immunities. Once it's out of that move, it can no longer hit Archaladon at all. So we set up our defense using Iron Defense and our attack using Electroshock to give ourselves as much of an advantage as possible once we get to this second phase. Once we're fully set up, we just knock it down to the 1 health bar you need to, using, I believe, oh, we're still going through the electro shots here. As you can see, it's just, Eternatus has to go for Cosmic Power, which definitely leads to complications in the second phase that you guys will see here in a second, but it's the best strategy I was able to think of. 1 more health bar to go for this phase. Gonna go for 1 flash cannon to knock it down. And here we go. Now we're gonna really speed it up. I decided to really speed up the second phase of the fight because it's honestly not very interesting. My main goal for this was really just a PP stall, because if you let it just hit you full on, you just don't have the health to outlast it. It has Recover to use around half health. It has Flamethrower to hit our Steel type super effectively, and it has Dynamax Cannon. All 3 of those moves hit very hard. My primary strategy just revolved around the shielding moves we had, being Spiky Shield with Ferrothorn, King's Shield with Aegislash, and also Dig with Empoleon giving us a turn of resistance. This allowed us to just slowly drain him out of PP, even though obviously he hits hard when he's able to hit, but he only has a set number of PP. Another thing I was attempting to do this entire battle was to make sure to not switch in any of my Pokemon with Lepid Berries. This seems odd, but one of Emax Eternatus' abilities is the Black Hole, which sucks in items from Mew. So I just really wanted to make sure he didn't have the opportunity to regenerate any power points, because that could have been really bad. So you kind of see here, Ferrothorn's really low, Aegislash is really low. And we're just trying our best to whittle it down. And in the end here, you can see it's starting to go for cross poisons. That means it's out of most of its good moves. So I just make sure to switch to the ones that don't have Lepid Berries. Please don't steal Lepid Berry. If you steal a Lepid Berry, it's all over. Just crazy. The whole run is done. And as the Ferrothorn, my MVP, my king, falls here, it was heartbreaking. But in the end, it's Tinkaton and Excadrill, 2 of our most important Pokemon. It feels fitting, feels poetic almost that it was these 2 at the end. It was only actually Excadrill, which feels perfect. Feels right. And in the end, as we hit the final blow, we realized what was truly mattered to us was our journey. That wraps up the playthrough. We were successfully able to beat the game using our Steel types. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. And leave a comment if you'd like me to try this again with a different type. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye-bye.